Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 5. And we are getting closer and closer to the end of the course, which means our big final research paper. But we've got some things to do before that, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. All right, so here we go, jumping into week 5. And so really when I look at my reflections for week 4, for the most part, everybody's kind of continuing on kind of where they're at. I've still got some folks that are behind in some assignments, some folks that are ahead in some assignments. Most everybody's right on track, and that's not a bad thing at all. I want to remind everybody, particularly those of you who may be falling behind with assignments, that all of our assignments build upon each other, leading toward the final research paper in the course. So if you are behind on your bibliographies, it's going to make it more difficult for you to be able to do your outline, and so on and so forth. And so that's why it's so critical to make sure that you stay up to date on your assignment due dates, get things turned in on time so you can get your feedback. If you have to do any revisions, you get that information ahead of time as well. So just something to kind of keep in mind as we progress along today. So as we look at our final research paper and the assignments moving up to it, this week we're going to talk again about the research paper outline. We did discuss it last week, and I did have some people go ahead and submit and are taking care of business there. But as you go into this week and you do the outline, which really shouldn't be that big of a task to do, I would really want you to really start considering if you are in a position that you can go ahead and start writing. Now, I know that it's always better to have an approved paper outline before you start writing, but chances are the big topics that you're going to be hitting. So there's nothing wrong with being able to start writing about particular portions of it, even if you kind of write out of order and then put things in their proper place once your outline's been approved. But the outline itself really should not take all that much time to do, and so it would be great to see some people submit those early so you can get the feedback early and you can start writing on your paper. If you can start writing this week, you're going to be in great shape for week 7. I will really stress, though, that next week you should be writing your research paper, okay? You don't want to try to wait until week 7 to knock that whole thing out at once. And I'm going to talk to you about the purpose statement and problem statement today so you have an idea of what that is. But I think just like this week's assignment, next week's assignment is also not going to be incredibly lengthy, regardless of what it may say in the course room, and I'll talk to you about that here in just a minute. So let's talk about our 5th discussion. And so this one is another topic that I think probably hits close to home, should hit close to home for all of you since you're currently going through a college program. And so the question is, should governments continue to support higher education and students who attend college? And so this is, once again, another one of those big topics, especially when we're talking about things like equity, is what can we do to try to be able to give everybody a leg up and make things, provide more equity across the lines for everybody. And higher education, education in general, is one of those ways to be able to do that. And so that's your base question, and what factors should be considered when making such a policy decision? We look at our most recent presidential election, and one of the big topics that came up during the primaries was, of course, trying to provide college for everybody, free college for everybody. Kind of goes into that healthcare discussion too. And maybe that's not exactly what we may be looking at with this question, and maybe more of the grants, scholarship opportunities, all those different things that are out there that the government may help provide in order, or even through grants, that can help with higher education. And so think about those factors. What are the arguments for and against such government support? So really, you're going to go in this thing and you're going to have to be objective. You got to kind of talk about both sides. And of course, at the end, you'll be able to really state what you think there and be able to support those ideas with scholarly evidence, because the rules are still kind of the same. So need to make sure you provide 2 scholarly references, and that you do your initial post. So, I'm sorry, it says due Wednesday. That's incorrect. I'm going to go ahead and fix that right now so nobody gets mistaken. Your initial post is due on Thursday. I don't want anybody to panic. There we go. And your peer response is still due on Sunday. All right. So looking at creating your research paper outline. So we went through this stuff last week. I'm going to go and discuss it again, though, but I wanted people to be able to be prepared to do this for those who wanted to work ahead, but it's always good to kind of hit on the instructions once again here. And so what you're going to do is you're going to create and turn in an outline for your final research paper. Like I mentioned last week, if you want to be successful in your writing, you want to make your writing easier, it's always better to develop an outline. And so what the outline is going to do is it's going to help you kind of break down, hey, what are the big things I need to get across? And within those big things, what are some of the subtopics that I need to get across when I'm doing my writing? And so that's what an outline is for. Now, some people want to skip that piece and they struggle when they write. So this has become an assignment for this course and for this final research paper, is for you to create and submit an outline for it to be approved. And once again, that's not saying you can't write without an approved outline. Your outline is going to make your writing process even easier, because you're going to include several things in here, and you're also going to do a piece that will play a big part in your final paper, which is your reference, which you're going to submit that early too. So let's talk about what I'm looking for here. And so when you do your outline, I'm not looking for paragraphs or even complete sentences. All I want to know are what are the topics. So I want you to break it down in an outline format similar to this, so I can tell what exactly is your primary topic and what exactly is your subtopics, okay? So you're going to have your primary topics for whatever your research question is. In fact, I want to remind you that I want your research question to be the title of this paper that you're submitting, because it's going to be the title of your final research paper. So essentially, you are completing your title page with this assignment too. And then you have your primary topics. What are the big things that you want to make sure you get across here, okay? And then within those big things, you're going to have some subtopic areas, all right? And now, if you look at the example here, I've got a primary topic, and then I've got 2 subtopics. You may have a primary topic and 5 subtopics, or 1 subtopic, or 3 subtopics. It's going to be up to you, and it's going to vary depending on what your primary topic is. And it's also going to vary as to how many primary topics you're going to have, okay? You may wind up with 3, you may wind up with 7. It's going to be up to you depending on how you write your paper. Now, within your subtopics, you need to list the references that you've completed through your annotated bibliography. So you've got 20 of those things where after this week should all be approved and ready for you to go ahead and move forward. I want those reflected in your outline. Now, you don't have to provide an APA referenced list there, at least not for this part. You're going to at the end. All I want you to do is provide the reference, in other words, the title of the reference and the author, and that's it. That's how I'll know, so I can match it up with what you've submitted in your annotated bibliographies to ensure that you've got all of them listed somewhere within your outline. Now, keep this in mind, that there's a really, really strong likelihood that you will utilize the same reference multiple times in multiple subtopic areas, okay? So that's an okay thing to do. If you realize, hey, I've got a really good content, or a really good reference here that I think could fit in several different areas, list them in several different areas. What I'm really checking for is to see within all of your subtopics that you've got enough scholarly evidence in there. Research papers should be thick with scholarly evidence, all right? If you're thinking, oh, well, I can just throw one here or there, that's not a research paper, okay? And I showed you the example of what should be in a research paper last week, and that's the expectation I'm holding for you for this one too. So your outline is going to help make sure that you're spreading out your scholarly information throughout. Now, I realize that for some of you, you're going to go well beyond the 20 annotated references that you provided in your bibliographies, and that's great. If you've got them, you can go ahead and list them in the outline. If you don't have them yet, you're just going to add them as we go along. That's okay too. You can do that later. Also, keep in mind that I realize that with your outline, that this is the reality of your paper as you know it right now. But that may change as you are actually writing. You may be writing aside, hey, I need another subtopic area. I'm going to go ahead and add that in there. Or I don't need that subtopic area after all. I'm going to remove it. That's fine, okay? What I'm going to be looking at is when I'm grading your final research paper, I'm going to have your outline handy. And I want to see that for the most part that they are going to align with each other. And as long as for the most part that they are, then I'll know that you just didn't provide just a bunch of garbage in your outline paper that you submitted. If I see that they're vastly different, I may come back and alter this grade, so please keep that in mind. Okay, so here are the expectations for this assignment. First of all, I want you to have your title page, and your title page should be your title should be your research question. I want to put that in bold, underline, highlight, whatever. I want you to be aware that your title of your paper is your research question. Okay. As I mentioned before, that the outline that you submit this week should align with your final paper with about 80% accuracy. So there's opportunity for you to be able to alter it somewhat, your final paper based off of your outline, but it shouldn't be drastically different. I'd like to see all 20 of the references from your annotated bibliographies embedded into your outline. And you, like I said, you may have references that you'll be citing more than once in your outline, and that's okay. Actually, that should probably happen. And then at the end, I want you to provide a reference page with all 20 of your references that have been approved through your annotated bibliography, listed alphabetically by the author's last name. And the reason why I'm having you do this is because you're basically going to go ahead and build for me right now your reference pages for your final research paper. Now, I know if you're going to add in additional references later, that you can do that, and so it may be a little bit different, but it gives me a chance to look right now and to catch those of you who have been constantly overcapitalizing, embedding hyperlinks, making errors with author information. I can try to catch that for you right now rather than you lose points for your final research paper, okay? So, title page, outline, reference page. That's what I'm expecting for this assignment. Okay, so let's jump ahead and talk about week 6's assignment, which is you providing a purpose statement, problem statement, and then a set of research questions that align with these statements, okay? So this sometimes causes people some anxiety because they're not too sure what exactly is a purpose statement or a problem statement, what's the difference between them. And there's a lot of great information out there that will tell you the difference between the two if you need to do a little bit more research to clarify this. Well, let's talk a little bit about it. So a problem statement is really the what. What is it that you will be studying, okay? You're going to define the problem. This is probably really where your research question will come into play. You're going to define the problem. You're going to state the rationale for why you chose it and why it's important. So I know for some of you, you're saying this sounds a lot like our research proposal, and in many ways it probably is. You can probably steal some of that language and tie it into your problem statement. Okay? A purpose statement is a little bit different because it's more of the why, the how, the when. You're going to talk about, this is where you state exactly what you plan to do with this problem. In other words, you're going to determine something, or you're going to contrast this to this, or describe something, okay? So that's how I want you to think about it. Problem statement is the what, purpose statement is the why, how, when. So let's look at a problem statement here or two, and it'll give you some ideas here. So let's look at this one here. It says, we want all our software releases to go to production seamlessly without defects, where everyone is aware and informed of the outcome and status. So that's a vision, okay? And so as we continue through this problem statement, let's look at it because it really breaks down into 3 parts: a vision, an issue, and a method. So today we have too many release failures that result in too many rollback failures. If we ignore this problem, resources will need to increase to handle the cascading problems. We may miss critical customer deadlines, which could result in lost revenue, escalated penalties, lost business, and further damages to our quality reputation. So we will use our Kaizen Blitz methodology in evaluating the last release to help us improve our processes. So right off the bat, we're determining the what. What is the problem here? Or what is it that we're wanting to accomplish? And then you go into a little bit of rationale as to why that's important, and then you wrap it up with kind of how are you going to look to try to solve the problem. And that would be a problem statement there that you could use. So if you look, this is not very lengthy. A problem statement is probably 1 to 2 paragraphs. It's not a lengthy thing. So you'll notice in the assignment that it says that this should be like a 3 to 5 page paper. That's actually not the case. This is once again one of those things where as we switch to a 7-week course, there are some things in the assignments that I want to continue to evolve, and I'll work with St. Thomas to do so. I would really expect that you could fit your problem statement and your purpose statement probably on the same page. And so that's a big thing. That's a big thing there. So let's talk about purpose statements, and let's look at some bad examples of purpose statements. So here's 2 of them. right here. The purpose of this paper is to describe the changes that are occurring in corporate America. All right, that's super vague. That doesn't really give me any idea of what we should be doing, okay? It just poses a lot of questions here. Now let's look at the second one. The purpose of this report is to discuss the eating disorders, anorexia, and bulimia. Okay, once again, very vague and broad. So that can happen with the purpose statements. People just want to be just kind of general with it and not provide enough information really to make it a substantive purpose statement. Now let's take a look at some good ones here. This paper will describe 4 common causes of coworker conflict in organizations and explain how to use a 5-step procedure to constructively manage this conflict. I read that, I have a good idea of what I'm going to expect as a reader. Now let's look at this next one. This report will explain how supervisors can use 4 planning strategies to improve employee productivity in the workplace. Once again, very specific, lets me know what's coming down the pipe as I read. Now notice the purpose statement's like a sentence long. It's not a lengthy thing. So that's why these things are not going to be very time consuming to write. You just need to know how you're going to phrase them. And so as far as your research questions, I'm not really as concerned about that. I want your problem statement and I want your purpose statement. Those are the 2 biggies, okay? I'm not really worried about the questions there. If you can give me good problem statements and purpose statements, I'm happy about that. And so what exactly will my expectations be for that assignment? Well, I want you to do a title page, and I want your title page to be your research question again, okay? Just get used to doing that, so that way I'm not looking for you to change things back and forth. From here on out, I want your title page to reflect your research question. Okay, and then you're going to get into doing your problem statement and your purpose statement. And chances are you can probably fit them both on the same page, but I want you to label them so I know this is the problem statement, this is the purpose statement. Okay, so that we just don't try to cram them all together. Now, the reason why I'm having you do problem statement and purpose statement is because it's going to be the basis for your abstract page within your final research paper. So you're setting the groundwork for your abstract page because it will reflect your problem statement and purpose statement. You're going to blend them all into your abstract paragraph or paragraphs, okay? I'm not looking for any reference page for this assignment. I want just really solid problem statements and purpose statements, and that's it. So really there's nothing that you'll be citing. So just dig into developing those 2 statements, and you're going to be in great shape, and you're going to find this to be a pretty easy assignment to do once you can get the wording down on particularly problem statement. I think your purpose statement you should have an easier time with. But that's week 6, but I just wanted to hit you with it ahead of time so you had those expectations and a little bit of an understanding on that assignment. So now you've gotten the information from what's involved for the week 5, 6, and 7 assignments. So you've got everything you need at this point to go ahead and kind of progress forward without waiting for further instructions to come. So that's it. So keep in mind a couple things. You've got your discussion post and you've got your outline for this week. If you are behind on any of your assignments, you seriously need to catch up. This is your week to catch up with everything. Please, if you are behind, make sure you go back and reread the late work policy so you understand where point deductions are coming from, where your deadlines are at. I mean, we're all adults, so I expect you to be able to have your own self-discipline to make sure you keep up with, okay, I'm running really late on this assignment. If I don't submit it by this point, I'm not going to get any type of points for it whatsoever. Those are big issues you want to make sure that you don't run into. For everybody else, just remember, keep on keeping on. Thursday's the deadline for your initial posts. Sunday's the deadline for your peer responses. Sunday's the deadline for your assignments. And that's how it's going to roll for the rest of the class. So just keep at it. If you have any questions, make sure you shoot me an email. And I will talk to you all next week. Have a great day, and please make sure you reply in the announcement section after you watch the video so I know who's received this information. Take care.